Whether you know and love John Starks for the dunk in the '93 playoffs, or know and hate John Starks for going cold in Game 7 of the '94 finals, you at least know him as a famous professional basketball player, the quintessential '90s New York Knick. And that basically wasn't supposed to happen. So some episodes of Prism focus on how the press and fans saw a player early in his career. Well, we can't do that with this one, because the press and fans were not aware John Starks existed for years and years and years. He was nowhere near the radar. Instead, we'll focus on coaches who noticed him over the years. There was the offensive-minded coach who didn't think Starks was junior college ball caliber, the pro-coaching legend who thought Starks could possibly make it in the NBA, the other legend who disagreed, and one of the greatest coaches ever who saw him as a bench player, at first. Let's see the John Starks these coaches saw. Let's look through the prism. Oklahoma junior college coach Ken Trickey, of Oral Roberts basketball fame, didn't think John Starks was that good. Might just seem like Ken Trickey is a terrible scout, but Starks' basketball resume when he met Trickey didn't inspire confidence. Starks basically didn't play varsity basketball in high school. Some of that was due to late blooming, sure, the kid was 5'6" as a junior, but a lot of it was due to conflicts with coaches. And antithetical to the late bloomer idea, teenage Starks had made a name for himself in the competitive Tulsa pickup scene. As a high school senior who'd grown quite a few inches, he dunked on Anthony Bowie, who at the time was attracting D1 offers. Bowie would go on to star with the Sooners and then play in the NBA. Right after high school, Starks only made the practice squad at Rogers State, and then got kicked out for stealing from a teammate, who, to be fair, had vandalized his dorm. Starks then made the team and got a scholarship at Northern Oklahoma College, but got kicked out for smoking weed in the dorms. And at this point, Starks spent some time away from education and organized basketball because he didn't have a choice. He got a job bagging groceries and stocking shelves at Safeway. And he stayed active in the Tulsa pickup scene, doing well enough to qualify for the 1986 Pigs Pop-Off tournament, which sounds kind of local and farmer-ish, but was actually quite legit. Pros and college stars played. That year, Starks held his own against Karl Malone and college players destined for the NBA. Dennis Rodman, Wayman Tisdale, and Anthony Bowie. Starks made the tournament all-star team, which is great, surely made him feel really good, but it wasn't going to give him a life. So in the fall, he enrolled in Tulsa Junior College to get a business degree. He was not pursuing basketball as more than a hobby at this time. Tulsa Junior College didn't even have a team. Starks was just trying to get his feet under him, wasn't trying to become a basketball player. He played intramurals because, he still enjoyed basketball. And he was impressive enough there that word got to Ken Trickey, the former D1 coach who had just accepted the head coaching role at a different Oklahoma junior college. Trickey gave Starks a tryout, but wasn't super impressed, thought at least a dozen kids were better than him. But what the hell, John Starks asked/pleaded nicely, so why not let the kid sit on his bench? And Trickey liked to give people chances. Perhaps the fact that he himself had been bumped down from D1 to junior college after a drunk driving arrest and a lousy stint at Iowa State influenced his philosophy there. So, Starks was on the team. Sort of. How does a guy who can't get in a game at a tiny school become an NBA name? It started with a dunk. One game, in garbage time, Starks dunked over Joey Johnson, brother of Celtics star Dennis Johnson, and the guy who held the state high jump record. And Trickey decided to get Starks some more minutes. Before long, Starks was starting and on scholarship. Local papers praised him. He could dunk, rebound, drive, pass. He made his teammates better. Finally, things were going well for John Starks. Finally, the way people were talking about him matched the reputation he has now. But the scale was still off. These were local papers talking about a small school. Nationally, he wasn't known. Yet about a year later, Larry Brown thought Starks had the potential to make an NBA roster. Wait, how was Larry Brown even aware of Starks? Well, because John Starks demanded awareness.
He finished his year at OK Junior College with nice stats and led his team to the state championship game.
Despite having just 1 year of eligibility left, Starks was fielding D1 offers. He committed to Oklahoma State, where he played with an intensity and tenacity of someone who knew they could hold their own against Karl Malone and Dennis Rodman, yet despite that knowledge, signed up for a business degree from a school without a basketball team. OSU coach Leonard Hamilton described it this way: Starks has more than ability. He will stand up and be counted. Starks started all but 2 games, shot 50% from the field, and perhaps most importantly, played well every time OSU faced Kansas, the team Larry Brown coached. After the '88 season, Brown was called up to coach the Spurs, and he invited Starks to San Antonio's Summer League camp, essentially a tryout for the NBA. After that, Larry Brown wanted Starks, but wasn't ready to guarantee any money, so Starks decided instead to try his luck on the free agent market. He ended up with a minimum contract on the Warriors under coach Don Nelson, but we can't get too down here. He made the NBA. 2 years ago, he was working at Safeway. If this were a movie, we'd say it was too unrealistic. This is an all-time great inspirational story, especially if we ended right here. Because while Nelson gave him a roster spot and made the NBA dream a reality, Nelson soon came to the conclusion that John Starks was not NBA material. Nelson barely played Starks. And it wasn't exactly a skill level thing. In fact, Starks felt his benching had nothing to do with his skill. At practice, he was doing well, killing even. Now, it's possible practice performance doesn't translate to game performance, but also Starks had conflicts with the coach. Nelson didn't appreciate that Starks stood up to be counted. Don't ask for more playing time. Don't ask for a better contract. To truly understand the player-coach relationship at play, let's look at an example exchange. During a shoot-around, Starks shot from out of bounds. Nelson told him not to, in his own words. And Starks used his own words to reply. Nelson cut him after the season, thus declaring John Starks wasn't NBA caliber. He said Starks was too wild in his play and presumably his attitude as well. He also threw some low blows in his assessment of John's skill set. The guard then headed to the CBA, where he made the All-Star game that was packed with NBA scouts. The Pistons were impressed enough to offer him a 10-day contract, but before they could, John Starks got a little too passionate and bumped a ref. Kinda hard. He was suspended for the last 10 games of the season. The Pistons were no longer interested. But you know who was too impressed at the All-Star game to mind Starks' ref-bumping spirit? The Knicks. Knicks GM Al Bianchi saw that Starks' desire, that drive that only somebody who killed at NBA practices but got bumped down to the CBA anyway could have. Unfortunately, wanting it isn't always enough. The Knicks soon decided to cut Starks. They agreed with Nelson. He wasn't NBA material. At the last practice before cuts, Starks was aware he was on the bubble and had to do something big. So, during a scrimmage, he went to dunk on Patrick Ewing. Twice in his life, big dunks had gotten him noticed. I understand his thinking. But Patrick Ewing was a 7-foot-tall, 240-pound NBA All-Star. In other words, a sort of wall that could push back if you tried to dunk over it. Starks did not score, did not change minds, but instead sprained his knee. And this is where the expression blessing in disguise comes from, I think. Because, according to the NBA rulebook, a team could not cut an injured player. John Starks' sprained knee got him a 1-year minimum contract with the Knicks. Not exactly the dream, but technically he was in the NBA. That counted. And it kept the dream alive. Barely, it was on its deathbed, but still breathing. When reserve guard Trent Tucker got hurt in early December, Starks was activated. In the 5 games Tucker was out, Starks wasn't so bad. In fact, when Tucker got healthy, John still played ahead of him. The press speculated this was because Tucker was getting older and Starks had potential to have potential. They also speculated it was a poor decision. But the Knicks had gotten a new coach in early December, and he liked Starks. A lot. Why? That intensity, that hustle, that something-to-prove attitude of a guy who wasn't supposed to be there. Getting quality playing time helped Starks find a little groove. And at this point, we can look to the press to see the widely, or at least widely throughout New York, held perception of John Starks. An effort guy, a capable NBA backup guard, a nice bench contributor. And the new Knicks coach for '92, Pat Riley, agreed with the press. Starks was a reserve, a spark off the bench. Now, we know Starks eventually changed Riley's mind, but how? That unique combo of hustle and desire, the fire in his belly that only a former Safeway worker who dunked over a high jump state champion could have. That's what changed Riley's mind. Now, Riley could see Starks' flaws. Playing with a defiant, combative competitiveness leads to turnovers and mistakes and too much trash talk, and hopefully not any more ref shoving. But instead of concluding that meant Starks couldn't survive in the league, Riley said, what if he just needs more experience? He upped Starks' minutes significantly and gave the streaky shooter free rein to chuck him up. Probably not how he phrased it, though. The coach later said Starks is the player who most reminded him of himself, and perhaps that gave Riley some insight into how to get the most out of the guard. Riley could see Starks' future before anyone. In mid-December, the coach made what was described as a surprising announcement. He considered Starks to be the top shooting guard in the division. Riley's words seemed a little less surprising by the end of the '92 season. John Starks was good. The following year, Starks began to morph into the player we know him as today. And in the playoffs, he solidified himself as a star, erasing any unsavory memories, redacting his resume. Against the Bulls in the Eastern Conference Finals, Game 1, fourth quarter, Starks outplayed Michael Jordan. Jordan said of Starks what a lot of people must have been thinking. I know he's here now. And that wasn't even the game Starks dunked on him. That happened in Game 2. Now we've come to the part of the resume we already knew and understood. We're celebrating him right now, don't think about it. The fact that John Starks became this guy was so unlikely. What if Ken Trickey didn't take pity on him and throw him a jersey? What if Brown didn't invite him to Summer League? What if he hadn't attempted to dunk on Ewing? So many times Starks was in the right place at the right time, with the right people around. But there were also plenty of instances where he was in the wrong place at the wrong time, with the wrong people around. So, even though I've just told you his story, I don't really get how John Starks did it. How'd he persevere? I guess John Starks was always this guy. It just took a long time for him to get a chance to show us.
Hey everybody, thank you for watching this episode of Prism. Would you like to watch an episode of something else? Something else secret base. I'm not here to promote all of YouTube. Just the good stuff, our stuff. Alright, feel free to subscribe, and for Secret Base, I'm Clara Morris. Good night and good game.